Hi, this is our first video on solving algebraic equations. So here we go. With equations, we just need to remember that, our equations are like some scales. Okay, so we've got some scales there. Whatever you do to the left-hand side of the equation, so if this is our scale, so I've got some equation there. Whatever you do to one side of the scales, to keep them balanced, to keep the scales balanced, whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. In other words, if you want to make one side heavier, you want to add 2 to this side, then it just means to keep these scales balanced, then you need to add 2 to that side as well. So just when you're doing equations, just remember when you've got an equal sign and you do something to one side of the equation, you must do it to the other. So in other words, if you've got 2x plus 3 equals 4, and you say, well, I want to get rid of this positive 3. How do I get rid of this positive 3? We go minus 3 there, and so we need to minus 3 on both sides, and they cancel out, etc., etc. I'll go through that a bit more in a second, but first thing to remember is whenever you do one thing to one side, you must do it to the other, because the equal side means that both sides are the same. Okay, they're both equal to each other. Okay. Let's get straight on to some examples, because that's really that's the main thing. The thing to remember is what your inverse operations are, and so just remember while we're doing this, the opposite of adding is subtracting, the opposite of adding minus is plus, opposite of times is divide, opposite of divide is time, and so that's just what we need to remember. So let's have a look at that. That's something to say. 3x minus 2 equals let's say 10. Okay, right, so let's have a look at this. What we're aiming to do is to find out what is x equal to. Okay, for solving equations, we're doing what is x equal to. X is the question mark. What is the value of this pronumeral here, this mystery number here? And so what we want to do is get it by itself. And so what we need to do is to get rid of, first let's get rid of this negative 2. How do we get rid of negative 2? Well, we need to add 2 to that. And if you go minus 2 plus 2, that equals 0, and that disappears. But remember, you have to do it to both sides, so we need to add 2 to both sides of the equation. So the next line is, we've still got the 3x sitting there, but that negative 2 and the positive 2, they disappear, and so that's just equal to 10 plus 2 is 12. Fantastic, we've gotten rid of that negative 2. Now let's have a look at this 3. How do we get rid of 3? Remember, this means 3 times x. If we're timesing something by 3, that's the same. The way to get rid of timesing by 3 is to divide by 3. So we divide by 3 and we do it to both sides. We must make sure we do it to both sides. And those 3's will cancel out, and therefore x is equal to 12 divided by 3, which is 4, and so there's your answer. X, our mystery number, is equal to 4. Beauty. Let's have a look at another example. So that's example number 1. Let's have a look at example number 2. Let's just have x plus 4 over 3 equals 9. Okay. So let's do this. Firstly, the first thing to get rid of here is this 3. It's the I've heard a maths teacher explain it before, that if you start with x, that's supposed to be green, start with x like that, then you go to the next furthest thing away from that, which is the plus 4, and then you do the next furthest thing away from that. And it's like little ripples in a pond. You start with x and you get bigger and you get bigger. You need to start with the outside ripple. That's one way of looking at it. I think it's a little confusing, but anyway, that may or may not help you. So the first thing to do is to get rid of this 3. And what this is a divided by 3. That's what this means. This means x plus 4 all divided by 3. So to get rid of that, we need to times that side by 3, and so therefore we need to times that side by 3 as well. That cancels out those 3's, and so what we're left with on this side is x plus 4 equals 9 times 3, which is 27. Great, so that's the first step done. Next, we need to get rid of this positive 4. How do we get rid of positive 4? Well, we go minus 4 from that side. We need to minus 4 from that side as well. And so what we're left with is x plus 4 minus 4, well, they disappear, and we get x equals 27 minus 4. 27 minus 4 is equal to 23. And there's your answer. So there you go, a couple of examples of two-step equations. And what you see is that when something moves to the other side of the equation, the equal sign, then it just swaps signs. So a -2, what happened to that -2 when it moved to this side? It became a +2. What happened to this +4 when we moved to the other side? It became -4. What happened to this times by 3 when it went to this other side? It became a divide by 3. What happened to this divide by 3 when it went to the other side? It went to a times by 3. So you can see here all these inverse operations here. Whenever something moves to the other side of the equal sign, these inverse operations here apply. And that's if you can remember all of those really well, then you're halfway into equations. Let me show you a couple of other ones. So I've got a new page. Let's have a look at something like, let's do something with -3 minus 2x equals 4. Okay, let's look at this one. Now, if you look at the sections of this, what you have here is you have this, the first term is 3. The second term is -2x. So I just want you to be able to think about those two things as separate things. And in fact, there's no sign in front of that 3, but because there's no sign, it's +3. So you've got a +3 and a -2x that is equal to 4. And so what we can do is we can rewrite this. If this looks a bit confusing to you, feel free to rewrite this like this, and we write it in a different order. Therefore, we write the -2x first, and we can write the +3 second. Okay, and that might help you to think about this problem a bit better. Alright, let's do this. So this +3, let's move the +3 to this side of the equation. What happens to the +3 when it goes to the other side of the equation? You'll get -2x equals 4 minus 3. Just like that. Therefore, -2x equals 1. 4 minus 3. Okay, that's the first step. Now, let's move this -2 to this side of the equation. Let's move that over. So therefore we have x equals, now this means -2 times x. -2 times x. So what's the opposite of timesing something by -2? Dividing by -2. So that's 1 divided by -2. And that's equal to -12. That's the same thing, that negative can go either. And just so that you know, that's the same thing as -1 over 2 and all that sort of thing. They're all the same thing. Okay, so there's a good example of that. Last example, x over 3 equals 3/7 or something like that. How do we solve something like this? Now the long way to do it would be, well, you say we want to get rid of this 3. No, actually that's a bad example. Can I just change that example? Sorry to do this to you. That was actually too easy to solve. Let's put x on the bottom line. 3 over x equals 2/7. I'll just change everything like that. Okay, let's do this. So you've got x on the bottom line now. How do we do that? Well, the slow way to do it was you could multiply by x on that side, so you'd multiply x on that side, and that would leave you with 3 on this side. 3 equals 2 times x over 7, and then you could multiply both sides by 7 to get that 7 on the other side. The faster way to do it, when you've got two fractions equal to each other, is just to simply cross multiply. In other words, you multiply that x by that 2, and you multiply the 3 by the 7, and those two things are equal to each other. And you can figure out why if you sort of go have a look at that example. If you do it the long way, you'll see that this short way is just doing 2 steps in one go. So what you do is you say 3 times 7, what's 3 times 7 is 21. That's equal to this other cross multiply here, 2 times x, which is 2x. So 21 equals 2x, and then you can simply solve that. Therefore x equals, what happens with this 2 if we move it to that side? This is 2 times, so times by 2. If we move it to that side, it's divided by 2, so you get 21 divided by 2, which is 11.5, or 21 over 2. If you want to write it as fractions, that's fine. Either of those answers is good. And so there's your answer. So that's a bit about equations, how to solve them. Have a go, have a bit of fun.